Okay, hello, greetings and welcome. All right, so let's continue with this this process, the mystical path. Now, many people who are on the mystical path have had traumas, they've had intense experiences, they've had psychic awakenings of sorts, where they've started to see, feel, hear things that they didn't before, and they enter into this mystical path for two reasons. One, to manage those side effects of the trauma. So either they don't have to have that feeling anymore, or see those things or hear those things, or that they want it to happen when they want it to happen, that they're in meditation, they have a mystical experience, that doesn't happen in them walking down the street. So to manage trauma in a mystical way requires a few laws. Now, this is your basics of Hermetics. Open up your mental space, open up your astral space, open up your physical space. Pain and trauma happens when the three bodies contract. When everything goes and pulls in, this hurts, that hurts, that hurts. Oh, the trauma, I can remember, oh, this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. All our garbage attacks us. Now, when you open up the vital body, vital breathe, relax into the space around you, breathe into the room. My body feels better. Release time, slow everything down. Do the first transformation. Astrally breathe into the room. My feelings, I feel so free. Release space, feather everything off, let your mind move outwards. Keep halving your space, your connection to the space, so your mind thins out. And as your mind thins out, you become very aware of the forest you're in, the trees around you. I feel free. This is the fabric of managing trauma. You can use any psychological trick you want. You can use NLP, you can use hypnosis, you can use Sedona method, the release technique, basic Vipassana methods of releasing. Anything to get the mental, astral, physical form to occupy more space, and you have a reduction in pain. When the mental, astral, and physical form contract, you have an increase in pain. So, vital breathing is the method I use. I fell out of a tree when I was 8 years old. I got childhood scoliosis. This pulled my neck out. My neck only half developed. So I've had neck pain, body pain, arthritic pain since I was a teenager. And you ignore it, there's life and you deal with it and you just move on. But when I came into Hermetics in my late teens, it was, wow, this allowed me to manage all the side effects. Side effects as in mental and astral, and reduce pain, keep pain down to a minimum. And the basics, vital breathe into the space around you, astral breathe into the room, and releasing the mental body out to the edges of the horizon, just release outwards, release them into the forest. When you are in places of power, the places of power support this. So if you're in front of a waterfall, it's so easy. If you're in the forest, it's so easy. If you're in a concrete room and you try and move beyond the concrete room, you'll have greater difficulty. If you move out into the veranda like I am here, it'll be easier to do. Apologies for this construction site next door. I hope it's not moving through the audio too much. But we'll see how we go. Okay, so vital breathe into the space around you. Do the first transformation, astral breathe into the space around you in a larger space. If you're in the gym, lift the weight and then put the weight into the fascia. Just stretch your body and vital breathe. Now start astral breathing around you and expand the mental space to encompass the entire room and beyond the room, and release. And really get your facial web just stretching, unloading as you activate the fascia. Now as you activate that facial web, you're going to start finding that the elasticity in your body, it wants to develop itself. It wants to dominate your experience. The reason why, it's a reflection of your evolution. If your muscles are dominating and tight and pulling in, it's a resistor to your evolution. So your body wants to release itself. You want to become loose and elastic, and because if you're loose and elastic, your mind is much more free. You have to do less work to dissolve the mental matrix for your mind to escape. Trauma can leave a gap in a tight physical body for escape. My gap is right here inside of my neck. I move in, boom, I can shoot out and leave my body. And this is I've been doing since my childhood to escape pain. So there was this gap there, and I could just slip out of the dentist chair and escape and not want to be there anymore. So this gap, everybody who has trauma has a gap. There's some place in which they can free themselves up. You don't want to use that gap too much. I use that gap for all types of psychic phenomena, and it just was easier. But now I enter into equanimity and use equanimity to open up the door for non-dual light to move through. Those trauma gaps, they're on the frequency of the trauma, which means they're usually very close to the physical, which means low-level energy is going to move in and out of them, not non-dual light. So be very, very careful if you're using a gap formed by a trauma to go into the stillness. All right, so what are the rules? Vital breathing to create more space around your body. Open and expand your joints. Make your joints a little bit more stretched open, either pulling or pushing or alternating electrically and magnetically. First transformation, use a 4-cycle breath to release time. Draw the life force in, feel it, and then enter into the stillness, pause the breath, and then as you breathe out, release time inside that energy. After a few cycles, that energy becomes thick, heavy fluid. It's got a type of timelessness to it. It's very, very, very slow. Everything's in slow motion inside that fluidic space, and then fill the room with it. When you're in that space, all the pain that might be in your body is now dissolved into a big space. And because there's no clinging in the mental astral body, or less clinging, should I say, there's less pain. And then, of course, the last stage, feather off the mental body. Feel the edges of your perceptive form space, relax and feather, expand, expand, expand. Keep feathering off and moving out. That's best done outdoors, so your mind can move out to the horizon. Just keep letting yourself expand through the forest, go up, out. And what you're going to find is that you'll go into daydream type states. If you've done your basic training of observing the rising, falling away, you can be very mindful in these daydream type states. So you're observing the experience, and you may be getting carried, but the observer is observing itself being carried. That's okay. You don't have to be right here in this body when you're being mindful. You can let the wind blow your mind away, and you're mindfully traveling with the wind. This develops a different type of freedom. And when you're managing trauma, these same rules apply. Now, let's say you want to apply a type of hypnosis to it. You'll take this time to vital breathe and astral breathe magnetism into the receiver to pull them open, get their brainwave patterns to move down into that theta range, and then you'll put ideas of relaxation, happiness, joy, and so forth into them. And the pain is going to disappear while they're in a hypnotic state. Depending on the commands you put in as whether that is going to continue after the session, or they're going to have to come back for regular sessions. You're best off teaching a person to vital breathe, astral breathe, release the mind substance, expand the space, and have a feeling quality of freedom. Much more efficient for managing trauma. Okay, now around this basic idea, you can develop methods for managing trauma, whether they're techniques like the release technique, the Sedona method. I did both of those courses and I enjoyed them very, very much. They're sort of like Buddhism without the Buddhist philosophy there, just the releasing of Buddhism. The founder of those systems originally called his system Release of Attachments and Aversions. And then his students came up and made their own versions and created CD courses. Now, a couple of decades ago or so, we started onto that journey and started to do those courses. I think it would have been 2003. And I found them very, very beneficial. They gave some amazing Buddhist tools and Hermetic tools from a view of psychology I didn't perceive before. So it allows you to break down the trauma and create space and let it go. So I do recommend those systems. For whether you're a therapist and developing new systems, whether you're an individual working as a personal therapy, use those fundamental laws. Open the space vitally, open the space astrally, open the space mentally, indulge in the stillness, accumulate the stillness in the mental matrix, and accumulate the stillness in the astral matrix, and harmonize and release the pain, the trauma, the disease, the emotions. Just let it go and practice that releasing mechanism. All right, thank you for your time. And I hope this gives you some clues on managing trauma.